My name is Rashad Mitchell. I am with the Office of Minority Affairs, and I wanted to thank you all for coming out to the beautiful African American Museum here in Hempstead for this very important discussion on mental health. Without any further ado, I would like to get started with that program. First, introducing Pastor Regina Williams, the current Acting Director for Minority Affairs.
Thank you and welcome to the first of many events that we're going to be sponsoring tonight. The discussion on mental health is something that the Office of Minority Affairs holds dear to our heart. We're in collaboration with one of our legislators that I'll be introducing in a quick moment. But we just want to thank everyone for taking the time out for this discussion. A discussion is a little different than a workshop or a teaching series. A discussion involves interaction from you as the congregation, and I say congregation because I'm just all about church. One of the things that tends to happen for us in our communities is that we do not discuss the difficult areas of our lives, and we want to talk about something tonight that's in all of our families, someone that we either hold dear to our heart or even ourselves. A lot of times we don't look in the mirror and we're not honest about who we are. So tonight we have a phenomenal group of persons that will present it before you that will give you a great night. So we're excited that at this time I'd like to introduce this one young lady who hails as the only African American female legislator that we have currently in Nassau County. For the past over 6-7 years, she has been working diligently within our communities, cutting edge leader, always ready for the fight and standing for what's right at all times. And we're just grateful for the Office of Minority Affairs to collaborate with this great young woman in the name of Legislator Siela Bynoe. And so we thank God that for her, because mental health is something, an initiative that she holds dear to her heart. So I would that you put your hands together as I present to you Legislator Siela.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, for that gracious and generous introduction. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
I thank you all for thinking it not robbery to brave the weather to come out on this rainy evening to join in this discussion, this very important discussion centered around mental health. I don't know if many of you know, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I think it's wonderful that we would culminate the month with this wonderful panel who will share a lot of insight and information on the issues that we're facing in our community. I am very thankful to partner with the Office of Minority Affairs, with the Greater County, as with our County Executive, Laura Curran, and with our Commissioner, Dr. Cummings from Health and Human Services, to have this discussion. When I first joined the legislature some time ago, I kind of started identifying issues that I wanted to work on, and mental health was one of them. And I've been laboring with that issue since 2014, and we've gained some ground on the issue. Since 2014, we've had several hundred Nassau County cadets come out of our academy having been trained in mental health first aid. Since 2014, it has been my work to make sure that we've gone into the school districts and provided the training to our administrators and to our teachers and our coaches and into our communities and trained our faith-based leaders to make sure that they have mental health first aid training. And then just recently, I was joined by 18 colleagues to pass a law that I introduced to ensure that Nassau County employees that work directly with the public will have mental health first aid training. Amen. And that training has already started through the works of our Commissioner of Health, our Commissioner of Human Services, Dr. Cummings, as we, I believe we've already had 60 individuals trained, and we're earmarked to have about 600 trained for the year, and that's going to include correction officers, our health, our emergency service workers, our DSS workers, our housing workers. It's going to go across a wide stream of our employees. And I think it's important because I realize that too often people end up in the wrong places. People who need to be in treatment end up in jail. Young people who need support in their household so that they can stay in their homes end up in foster care. So it's way too often. I labor in my daily work as an executive director of a housing authority, and I see these issues up close and personal. And prior to joining the legislature, I was a school board member, and I saw these issues play out in our school district. So I think it's important that we have these discussions. We have to destigmatize these issues and encourage people to get the help that they so desperately need. So this evening we will hear from a very well-educated panel. It will be moderated by none other than Dr. Cummings, and I implore you all that if you have questions, this is a safe place, and we should ask our questions. And if nothing else, please take note of all the resources that are available that you might be able to encourage someone to get the help. All right, so thank you for being here, and please stay engaged.
Thank you again, Legislator. Now, before we get into our panel discussion, we will actually have some poetry performances. So first up, I would like to call a personal friend of mine, Miss Nicole Pequindo.
I heard someone say I was in the bathroom practice. Yeah, that was me. I get nervous. How you guys doing? How are you? My name's Nicole. A lot of people know me as SG. SG stands for Supergirl. That was just a nickname I was given to as a kid growing up, and it just stuck with me. I myself struggle with a mental disorder and depression. So that's why I started doing poetry. I started writing poetry in high school, but I started getting on stage in 2016. I did it for myself. I didn't intend for it to impact people as much as it did. So that's why I kept doing it. Because after the first time I did it, people kept coming up to me to keep doing it. So I think in a way it has even helped me grow as a person, because it's not spoken about enough. Well, they can't hear me?
Or project.
Oh, I might. Thank you.
Don't be nervous.
Oh, you haven't seen me perform in a while.
That's true.
I don't use a mic anymore.
Nice.
All right, so I'm going to start off with a warm-up poem. It's called Quick Sign Up for Hope. I'm standing on the sidewalk right next to my broken soul with a few words that I'd like to share with you. Ever notice how the stars turn white in the night and guide you toward your fairy tale dreams? I got some pain, but I'm trying to figure out what's God's plan for me. Because these thoughts in my head are pretty scary. And this feeling in my chest is pretty wary. Take a walk in my shoes for a day, but you wouldn't think I was so cool. I bet you run the moment you see the demons I hide inside my Bible. And no, this isn't about survival, more like hope. I drown in my own bloody tears as I cope, but refuse to scream out for help. This is depression. I'm just trying to paint a picture of how I felt, and still deal with daily. Call me crazy, but I like to feel the pain when it's cold and rainy. And my mind is all hazy from this cannabis smoke that I tote on. My mind is so gone, but I'm so on 100. I feel my time is coming. And that's why I didn't leave that night. I tried to take my own life. God had a plan. He's just waiting for me to figure out who I am. So, still I stand. Thank you.
All right.
Has anyone lost anyone to like suicide? So I lost 2 people close to me to suicide. One of them was one of my best friends. He killed himself with a gunshot wound. So I kind of wrote this like inspired by him. and it's called Wake Up Call. Cannabis smoke taking trips in and out of my soul. Gunmetal running down my cheek, leaving tears froze. Painkillers on the counter sitting right next to my time clock. Patiently waiting on the next hour while my mind is on lockup. You see, only a few would understand where I'm coming from. Demons dripping out of my nose like loose mucus. Knife wounds from my chest to my stomach feeling gross, leaving me useless. But nobody knows about this pain I hide inside, so even when I cry, you won't hear me. Depression only seems to sink in when I'm standing on top of the world, do you feel me? So I light up the next blunt on a hunt for higher thoughts, praying for deeper blessings with this fake diamond cross I just bought. Dear God, do you hear me? Looking for answers because I'm lost on the ground with a crooked smile that at night turns into a frown. I'm down, lift me up, give my soul peace. I'm just trying to be found with my crown in the rush of Jesus' peace. And like the rain, my tears leave me soaked, broken, searching for hope. Bright lights flash, I'm climbing heaven's rope. Gun smoke in my mind, but this time a blast of time rewinds to my better days. Wake up to morning haze, I'm awoken by heaven's blaze. Back to my hero ways, no more tears, only souls to save. Call me the hope dealer, here to save the day. And even with minimum wage, I give my all like it's my last day to live. Finally found, but still searching. No more hopeless daydreaming, mama, I'm just boasting. Two-stepping in a fresh pair of white Timbs that I'm just trying to live. And since this world is so dark, my heart I'm willing to put in. Call me Chef Weather. I'm dashing the world with the different seasons I'm cooking in. Even when I fall, I spring back up. My winter heart warms up with summer luck. No more wishing that my life would just end. I'm bringing back hope. I'm only looking ahead. Wake up call. Thank you.
It's very difficult being up there and to be up there talking about issues as sensitive as depression. It takes a lot of courage, so thank you for that. So next we will have one more performer who will actually serve as one of our panelists. So without any further ado, Mr. Stephen McCarty.
How are folks feeling tonight? All right. I just want to say first and foremost how much of an honor it is to be able to perform in this space, to be an incredible honor. So thank you. And give yourselves a round of applause for speaking. So I want to share two pieces that appear in my book called Billion Burning Dreams. The first one is called Dear Anxiety, and it's the first of a series of letters that I've written to my own anxiety as a way to try and build some kind of relationship with this thing that seems to have a mind of its own and seems to want to show up whenever it wants to show up, and try and understand like what that's like, to try and build something positive out of it. And so it's one of three that it's in this collection, but I'm also a social worker and a therapist, and I've also found it a wonderful tool for some of my clients, this idea of writing letters to the things that we have to live with, that we don't necessarily understand. And so I encourage you all to try that for yourself, because I found it very helpful and very healing. This is Dear Anxiety. Dear Anxiety, you can't drive a knife into my back. You can't drive a knife into my heart by stabbing me in the back. I've been living off secrets and panic attacks, cuticles and paranoia, biting the skin from my bottom lip, banana peels strewn across my path to keep my self-love bruised, begging. This David and Goliath match has set everything on fire, and neither of us is willing to let the smoke settle to see what's worth saving. Old friend, you have been living off cinder and kindling, yearning for the taste of kindness, the blood of your sibling. Perhaps the point is to forgive instead of kill, to comfort instead of destroy. I always thought you were a monster, but now I think you're just a boy who was never understood. Pinocchio was made of wood and his nose grew when he lied, but he wanted so desperately to be real. Maybe you are made of lies, and you grow every time I tell myself that they are real.
Right.
So I'm honored to have friends in the audience, and they'll be very familiar with this piece. But I like to end on it because I think it's something that we can all connect with. And this is the piece is called "If I Looked Like What I've Been Through." And this idea of we've all been through something. We've all survived something. We've all been perpetrators of something. And if we looked like the things that we've been through, how much easier would it be for us to understand one another's struggle? And to be able to actually witness somebody for who they are rather than focusing so much energy on trying to hide this from everybody else. So I thank you all for having me up here and I'll be on the panel. But I'll end on this piece. If I looked like what I've been through, if I looked like what I've been through, I'd have the face of a woman and a man contorted into a kind of in-between. Delicate, masculine, with eyes that pierce and lips that tempt, with a jaw of glass that slices like obsidian, and a brow that collects beads of sweat, where ideas fall to their deaths. If I look like what I've been through, I'd have a heart where my brain is supposed to be. I'd have a heart where my brain is, I'd have my brain where my heart is supposed to be, and they'd constantly be switching, thinking, feeling, fighting for what is right, neither able to decide who is winning. If I looked like what I've been through, I'd be dressed in a three-piece straitjacket with cufflinks, dressed to the nines in a canvas tux with the images that cloud my mind painted on. It's a metaphor for my artistic fervor, my former affliction transformed into a brilliance no less insane. If I looked like what I've been through, my blood type would be ink, and you would see it coursing in sentences and verses just beneath my skin. If I looked like what I've been through, my skin wouldn't be able to tell you what race I am, but you would still judge me. I'd have the misplaced morality of a Christian, the pantheon of a Hindu, the hope of an atheist, and the history of a Jew. If I looked like half as much as I'd been through, I'd only be half a person. An incomplete masterwork, a magnum opus loaded only with dummy bullets. I wouldn't have half the passion that bleeds like beads of sweat from my gaping pores and rivulets of syntax that I dab with loose-leaf paper to preserve what I've been through. If I looked like what I've been through, you wouldn't even see me. You'd only see the things that make me me, but they are not me. You see, I am so much more than just what I have been through. I am infinitely stronger.
Right.
Thank you so very much.
Give it up one more time for Steve. Now I would like to introduce Mark Bennett from Bonafide Lyrics and Marketing to introduce our moderator. So Mark Bennett.
Hello everybody, how are you doing? Hello. My name is Mark Bennett. I'm one of the co-owners with my lovely wife of Bonafide Lyrics and Marketing. Where creativity and business meet, we just try to help creators understand business. Because we have a lot of times people, I believe that the greatest artists you might not ever hear because of bad business. So the goal is to help them out. Also, on a side note, me and her, we both also host a podcast called All Love, No Fear. So please check that out. But I'm here to introduce our moderator, Dr. McCummings, Dr. Carolyn McCummings. Dr. McCummings is the Commissioner of the Nassau County Department of Human Services. Prior to this appointment, she has worked 30 successful years in Nassau County government in the Health and Human Services vertical. As Department of Human Services Commissioner, Dr. McCummings oversees the 6 divisions that provide both direct services and programs for residents of Nassau County in need. The divisions are the Office for the Aging, the Office of Youth Services, the Office for the Physically Challenged, the Offices of Mental Health, Chemically Dependency, and developmentally disabled, and the opioid treatment clinic. Dr. McCummings holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration from Hofstra University, specializing in management. She also holds a master's degree, a PhD from Walden University, both in public health. Please give a round of applause for Dr.
evening. It's always hard to hear someone say who you are. I'm looking down like, who's he talking about? So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our discussion on mental health. First, I'd like to thank this lovely venue. This is right in our backyard. This is my backyard. I'm a resident of Hempstead, and so I'm so proud to have this African American Museum right here in our yard. And the fact that we're using it is like really. So earlier, Dr. Regina Williams talked about audience participation. So now I'm going to give you your first opportunity for audience participation. So I'd like to ask you a few questions as a little icebreaker. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you went to a doctor's appointment this year. Okay. Raise your hand if you were admitted to a hospital for any reason over the past year. Okay. And raise your hand if you took any medication, over the counter or prescription, in the last year. Okay. So as I asked these questions, I see a lot of people were eager to raise their hand because it was okay. And how did that feel? Because I'm asking you, it's sort of personal, but it's a question that's, didn't seem too hard for you to answer. How did that really feel? Just let me hear from one person about those particular questions.
Well, it was easy for me because it was something that transpired and it had to be done. Mm-hmm. So I took heed to it and had it done.
Mm-hmm. And going to a medical doctor or appointment is pretty generic, right? Everybody does it. All right, now think for a minute now. Now you don't have to raise your hands for these questions, but just think for a minute if I would have asked. Raise your hand if someone in your household saw a mental health professional over the past year. Or, you don't have to raise your hands. Or if I asked, because I know you're looking at me kind of like, or if I asked if you or someone in your household took a psychiatric medication over the past year. So how would that feel? And I think I'm going to help with that answer is, that's different. That's a little bit more personal. It's part of the stigma of those questions and that topic. And that's what we're here for today. We're going to talk about stigma about mental health, mental illness, and trauma in our community. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to introduce the panel, but you want the panel up here, right? Yeah. So I'm going to ask that the panel just come up. I'll introduce. I'm going to let them give a little short description of what they do. So can I first have Elmira Perez up? She is the Director of Community Services under the Department of Human Services. Cherie Dortch, Clinical School Social Worker for the Hempstead School District. Alicia James, founder of the PAM Project. And you met Stephen McCarty. He's a New York State licensed social worker and spoken word artist. Gregory Singer, Educational Administrator for Union School District. And Aman Handa, he's a Senior Community Relations Coordinator for Wellcare Health. I'm sorry, Dr. Lisa Newland. And so, see, this is why it's good that they're going to introduce themselves as well. Association of Black Social Workers. Oh, I know you. Let's take the hot seat. Okay, so just real quickly, we're going to have each of the panel members just say maybe 1 minute about themselves, starting with Elmira.
So my name is Elmira Perez. I'm the Director of Community Services for the Office of Mental Health, Chemical Dependency, and Developmental Disability Services under the Department of Human Services, Dr. McCummings. So our responsibility in the office, and what I've been doing for the past year, appointed in this position, is to oversee the mental health and chemical dependency services and developmental disability services for Nassau County. We manage approximately $46 million in contract with our providers in the community, and our responsibility is to ensure that they're delivering the quality care that we expect them to deliver. We're also involved in providing training and education and prevention services, including obviously what Siela Bynoe had indicated, which she was the driving force behind the development of mental health first aid and ensuring that those training opportunities are available to the community. We also hold the only opioid treatment program in Nassau County, and it is housed on the campus of Nassau University Medical Center. There we oversee the treatments of approximately 560 people, and so we provide over 10,000 medication-assisted treatment sessions a year to individuals navigating the substance use and opioid addiction. So our office is also the driving force behind 227 Talk, which is a helpline that I'm going to be speaking a little bit more about it, which is really designed to provide information, resource, and education to professionals and also consumers and constituents in the county regarding those mental health services and chemical dependency services that are available. I am available to all of you if you ever needed to have a discussion with me regarding bringing training opportunities and bringing educational opportunities to you.
My name is Cherie Dorch. I'm one of the school social workers at the ABGS Middle School in Hempstead. I'm the coordinator of the team center and the prevention worker in the school. I also have a private practice, private psychotherapy practice, and with an office in Garden City and Rockville Center.
All right now.
Good evening, family. My name is Alicia James, and I wear a couple of hats, but I'll speak on the one that we're familiar with tonight. I am the president and founder of an initiative called the PAM Project, and PAM stands for Preserve a Mom. It's a social enterprise advocating for mothers of color and their mental health. And that work came by chance for me. 19 years ago, I volunteered for a nonprofit organization for mothers that were in crisis, and I wanted to address the mental health needs of mothers regardless of what their income level was, and talk about how we can address wellness and solutions as opposed to just the problem.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Lisa Zakia Newland, and I'm the proud president of the Nassau Suffolk Association of Black Social Workers. Yes, thank you. It's an organization that has been on Long Island since 1977, and it's been a national organization since 1968. And I've had a journey through that organization, so to be able to see where I've come from a young social worker to a more seasoned social worker, being cultivated by a group of professionals that speak to African-centered values and recognize how important it is to bring healing types of efforts to our communities and to operate from the perspective of cultural competency, cultural sensitivity, and cultural humility. There's a continuum that we've gone on with some of those concepts. My day job is the chairperson of the Department of Social Work at Malloy College, and I also have a private practice in Rockville Center.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amon Honda. I'm the Senior Community Relations Coordinator for WellCare Health Plan. My office is right here where the former McDonald's used to be at 86 Main Street. You're all welcome to come. I'm in charge of the community relations aspect of the job. So I work in Nassau and Suffolk County. I was the past president of the 100 Black Men of Long Island. Member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm on the board for the NYPD Guardians, as well as the Compton Kids. So I have a kind of a diverse background. I'm a proud father, love my children. I have 2 daughters in college, and actually my daughter is studying mental health at Adelphi. So it's just interesting. Go Panthers. Yes, go Panthers. But thank you, we appreciate it, and thank you for my fellow colleagues for being up here as well to give you an education for this evening. Thank you.
Olden lives in history. Is there anyone here older than 53 years old, born on March 3rd? Anyone? One person? Anyone older than 53 years old? May I speak, sir? May I speak? When you are in a house of history, as we are today, you ask your elders, I'm sorry, for permission to speak. And I learned a long time ago when I lost my elders in antiquity, that you ask somebody that look like they know, act like they know, may smell like they know, they can let you know something. My name is Gregory M. Singer. I borrowed the M during my days in foster care. I am a licensed master social worker. I am a school building leader and school district leader. I wear those things proudly. Haven't missed a day of work in over 19 years. Because you have to show up, to be up, to be ready for the fight, and I'm proud to say that. Now, I practice my day job as an administrator with Uniondale Schools, and my afternoon job as a licensed master social worker, fighting the good fight on behalf of the good fight at Bayshore's Stillwater Therapy Group and all of our families in the Central Ice Slips and the Bayshores and the Brentwoods, and the fight is just a fight. I am also a proud poet, so I was highly impressed with the strength of my sister and my fellow Seawolf here from Stony Brook University. Proud graduate of Stony Brook University Master's Program. Sister came up to me and said, wonderful sister Williams came up to me and said, "Singer, don't I know you? 2003. As a poet, I've been practicing a long time, and from the edge of your mind to the tip of your hands, you can grip your disbelief and make it expand. You can fortify this feat in an impregnable array of your kaleidoscopic prowess that may light your new day, one in which your aptitude will dictate attitudes towards preconceived notions. With viper cunning, you can halt wasted mental motions. This presence can bridge the great ignorant divide, and the strength of these lessons will be the Excalibur at your side." Just a little bit of
Already got a little taste for my passions. So I'm a licensed social worker here in New York. I work with people with severe, chronic, persistent mental illnesses in Jamaica, Queens, which I'm very honored to do. I work with some of the most resilient, brilliant, intelligent, strong human beings every single day, and I feel absolutely honored to work with them. So I'm here representing their voices as well. And my identity as a social worker and a spoken word poet, I consider them the same. I also share that as a child I was diagnosed in the autism spectrum, and so most of my childhood was spent in and out of hospitals and doctor's offices, experiments, therapists, and so I come with that background as well. And I worked for a few years as a couples therapist in private practice, so those are just sort of my background, so I'm just very honored to be on this.
Mental illness refers to a wide range of mental health conditions and disorders that affect your mood, your thinking and behavior, and some examples of mental illness include depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and addictive behaviors. Many people have mental health concerns from time to time. So with these two definitions in mind, I want to start with the panel questions, and anyone can jump in. But the first question is, what does mental health versus mental illness mean to most people and to us as a community? So no one wants to jump in.
What does it mean to most people?
Right, so mental health, so I read the two definitions. And mental health versus mental illness. What do you think that means to most people when they hear mental health or they may hear mental illness? What does that mean to others?
I think most people use them interchangeably. But you gave the definition, so you see that they're different. So I do think people use them interchangeably.
Okay, and what does it mean to the community as a whole? What do you think?
For me, I think because most people don't know the signs and symptoms of a mental illness, so when you start talking about saying mental health, people shy away from that, not realizing it is not a negative thing to talk about someone's mental health, not realizing there is a difference. And I think that's part of it, that people don't know that what a mental illness is, as opposed to saying we want to talk about mental health as a good thing.
Well, yeah, because I don't think people understand that mental health entails your psychological, emotional, your social well-being, and even of how we make decisions, even how we interact with each other, how we have relationships. You know, that's part of mental health. Right? So I think when you talk mental health, people are they're automatically thinking schizophrenia, or, depression, a diagnosis.
I think it's important to understand that mental health is something we all have. Just like we have our physical health, we have our spiritual health. It is a state of psychological being, and it really determines how successful you can navigate the struggles and the stresses of life. So mental health is not really, it's not meant to be used as a derogatory term. It is really a state of being, we all have it. And that's what I think distinguishes it from mental illness. Mental illness is more palpable with signs and symptoms. It is a diagnosable disorder that is recognized. So that's how I separate both mental health state and mental illness.
Well, health is looked at as a state, as you said, a state of being. When you see a healthy state, it doesn't leave much to question because it speaks for itself. Now, illness, the disruption of the homeostasis of said health state is a whole different story. We shy away from it, we run away from it. If it's in the family, we run away from it. Your grandmother's acting strange, your dog is acting strange, a different frame of mammalian, aspects. But when something acts out of a state of health, out of a state of homeostasis, you want to shy even if you love said person. Love said, and we love some of us are pet parents, we're not going to deny that. When you see something in a state of dis-ease, you want to shy away from it, even if you love it with all your heart. And that is the stigma of mental health, that I have no answers in the face of this power. And yet, you do have answers if you calmly try to do it. You just can't tell anybody to calm down.
I'll also dive in. I agree with pretty much everybody else here that I think generally people, folks use the two interchangeably. But I think, just to paraphrase, I think mental health is something we all are building a relationship with, if we're aware of it or not. And I think part of that is building an awareness of our own mental health needs. Mental illness, I look at it as just as from the point of view of functioning. Like if a person is having difficulty functioning in social relationships or maintaining their personal hygiene, that would constitute a mental illness, a label, some kind of symptom that we can attach to that thing. I think the symptom in and of itself, the illness in and of itself, is not sort of a thing. It depends more on the individual problems that they're having. And so I always look at, for me personally, I look at mental illness in terms of functioning. What is it that the individual is having trouble functioning with? And the other thing I'll mention too is, and I think this is an important point, is that mental illness historically has also been used as a political tool of labeling people, and I think that that's something that contributes to why we're afraid of that, because there's a stigma. I think historically it has been used against folks, and so I think shifting from that understanding to this idea of a person has a lack of something that they're struggling with in their life, we can attach this label to it so we can help address it in some particular way. I think it's part of that shift in the distinction between the two.
And I would just add the importance of recognizing when we talk about it as a state of well-being, there's so many dimensions to well-being. So you've heard us talk about social relationships, social relationships as well as spiritual well-being, financial well-being, hello somebody, really looking at our career, our occupational goals, our capacity to function in areas of life that are important to us. So when we think about well-being, we want to be able to understand it. We also want to be able to promote it by making some choices and, engaging in certain things that will promote aspects of those different dimensions of well-being and also to protect it. I met Alicia when she had a program called Saving My Last Nerve, right? And we have to be creative sometimes when we have workshop flyers and promotions on, we can't say come to the mental health workshop per se, right? So, but we can connect to that idea of saving my last nerve. We all know about that one last nerve that, we have to protect, right? So I think we have to make sure that we recognize, that well-being is a state that has multiple dimensions and needs protection.
And I think that's why these discussions are so good, because so we don't focus so much on the illness and understand that there is a well-being that we need to focus on as well.
The body has always been a magnificent tool to save you. And in reference prior to the days of lights, of heat, of all of the things that are mechanical, the human body, if allowed to go back to a point of homeostasis, went back to a place of health. And you can do it, you can study it in carpal light studies. The history is not hard to find, it's within these walls, but the body wants to be in a calm state, in a beautiful state, in a loving state. When you see a body in a state of love, the skin glows. Now, they may not be in love with somebody, but they can be in love with their body, their state, their power, their homeostasis. So if we can at least share some of this love, then we can affect the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. In the pursuit of living that.
Okay, so if I can move on to our next question. So we're here to talk about stigma around mental health and mental illness. So what are some of the community stigmas and challenges that we should consider?
One, I believe, is the belief that we have to be strong. And that's definitely something as a community that we own, especially among Black women, this thought that we have to be strong all the time. So seeking help is not going to be the first call, because a lot of us wear the mask that everything's all good. And so, communicating to someone that I'm not well, who wants to own that? And so we want to keep putting on the false impression that everything's, I'm good, I don't need nobody, I'm strong, I'm invincible. That's one of the worst things that is harming us. When I speak to mothers, either it's from the church or from their family members who are not behind the getting support frame of mind, they have a hard time with that. So I think definitely that being strong is something that we need to just take away.
I think that the idea of destigmatizing mental health, it's a community responsibility. I really do think it's a community responsibility. How we communicate about mental health, how we crack jokes about it, how we also perceive mental health in the media, in the platforms out there that people have an opportunity to really address this. In our own home, within our families, calling, our loved one who's crazy or someone is bipolar in our families, and using the term very loosely. That is how we continue to perpetuate stigma. So I think it is a community responsibility to ensure that we call it out when we see it. Because by doing that, we put responsibility on folks to be very sensitive and be very gentle as we relate to these subject matters. Because every single person in here either knows someone or is personally being impacted by mental illness or drug addiction. It touches all of us. So I do think it is a community responsibility.
And I'll jump off of those 2 points. I think this perception of being broken is also something that I hear as well. Is that if I admit that I have a problem with this thing, it means there's something wrong with me, or there's something about me that's broken, right? And it's this idea of strength it's ironic, is that I think it's strength to be able to say that I have a problem, right?
Exactly.
It's being able. It's not that we're broken. Or that there's something damaged about us. It's that I have this thing. I haven't yet gotten to a greater version of myself yet. And so how can I move? What do I need to move through to get to that? And this idea of the community responsibility. We hear a lot about self-care, right? Like you have to take care of yourself, which I think is important. But I think part of that comes out of this rugged individualism idea that we have, which is this like you got to take care of your problems in a vacuum someplace, right? But I think if we had people in our lives, if we all weren't so afraid to talk about these things, and we provided that network of support, and be able to say, yes, we can talk about that. Yes, we have space, that we can hold space with that thing that you're struggling with. Our communities, I think, would be a lot healthier overall. And to the point of mental illness, many of the folks that I work with have been isolated their whole lives, that people say that something's off, so I'm going to put you here so I don't have to see or bear witness to that struggle. And that has profound effects on people. And so, again, many of the folks I work with are incredibly intelligent, but because they've been oppressed and stigmatized, they can't put that intelligence into anything. So if we invested in our mentally ill community members, I believe that our communities would get healthier and get stronger over time.
There are views of women, there are views of men, and then there are views of Black women and views of Black men, and Hispanic men and Hispanic women. and Hindu men and Hindu women and Jewish men and Jewish women. You understand? If we saw the stigmatized filter that we all may look at outside of our eyes, we would have eyes the length of 10 feet outside of ourselves with floating satellites in reference to what and how we think we should view someone. And yet if we closed our eyes and I touched my brothers, all I feel is man. All I feel is 98.6 degrees of intelligence and try and effort and passion. But once we open our eyes to what can be seen as institutionalized, fortified ignorance through almost mathematical equations, then we are forced to say, who will I be and how I want to see this? Can I see this person as the person that I can receive, instead of what I'm supposed to see, as you said, as we all, as women, instead of intelligent, passionate beings? Why can I not see them as that? And this is how we look at things. We are fortified to see women now, if we don't know it, as objects on the WeTVs, on all of these different shows, and they dress them up to have a discussion, and then when they dress them down, to call each other the B word, as if we have to attack each other to see each other in a clearer way. That B is crazy. She's gonna take my man. You understand? We are clearer than that idea. We are more pristine than that idea. And if we do not fortify it with a casual, comfortable, lively, living conversation, then we are the stigma that the world wants us to be.
Yeah, part of the stigma also that I have heard over the years is that, black folks, black and brown folks don't go to see a therapist because there are no black or brown therapists. But guess what? 5 out of the 7 panelists are therapists of color.
I do hear from people that it's hard to find black therapists. I mean, we are out here. When I graduated from Fordham University, one of my professors told me that she asked if I would keep in contact with her because, she said that she can help someone of color, but she doesn't know the experience. She doesn't understand the experience the same. And I get it because I have a lot of people who call me and say, I'm looking for a black therapist, or they're so happy they found a black therapist. But when you look at therapists on a whole, there are a whole bunch of us. And, I belong to a group of therapists, and we're always booked. It's very hard. It's very hard. We're not available for people, so that's an issue also. And the whole idea of, black people we don't go to therapy. We deal with our own problems. There's a trust issue there, whether they go to somebody white or black or, another race. They have issue, if they go to somebody white, they can't understand me. If they go to somebody black, I'm not telling them my business, so it's, I hear it. I say it all the time. So, it's like, so what do you do? Because I think as a people, we need it the most. Right. We've dealt with a lot of trauma that we haven't dealt with.
We massage our issues. We massage our issues through food, through alcohol, through denial, okay, through violence, okay, through abusing things that are supposed to be used in a natural sense, and putting ourselves to sleep with 4 drinks instead of the complimentary aspect of 1 small glass of wine to complement your meal. Your stomach is your second brain. As we go forward and study dementia, which is also attacking this community, you realize aspects of it start in your stomach, complemented by your stress. The denial is that sugar, diabetes, is a caveat to dementia. And where's the most sugar? Ask Patti LaBelle. No offense to Patti. That great pie.
I want to make a comment in terms of therapists. On the advocate side, I find a lot of mothers connect with me on social media where they are seeking out therapists. And when I try to vet out therapists that are people of color, either the insurance is an issue. I send a lot of moms that come to me through social media and just not interacting with them. I send it to Psychology Today. No, Psychology Today. Yeah. Which is great because it has a really good filter. Mm-hmm. So you can put in where you reside, and then you can put in the types of insurance you have. And it will filter and give you a selection of a nice assortment of people of color who are qualified. But when I call them a therapist, they don't take the insurance, or Medicaid is the issue. And so then...
Well, I'll say this, because I know a lot of therapists do this, and I do this. If there's somebody, especially if it's somebody of color, because I know that it's so hard to get us into therapy, I will take on the slightest.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what you can afford, what will be comfortable for the both of us. You know, and that's how I work it out. So
I'm
There
gonna
is
send some moms.
There's also a state resource called CHAMP Helpline. You can Google that. It's funded by the New York State Office of Mental Health and the Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services. And it's designed to help folks navigate the system of care as it relates to insurance coverage. And so it is a resource that it's out there. Not enough people know about it. But this is a good way to connect the folks that you're serving as well.
Okay.
And I also agree with you. The insurance is access to mental health services. The root of the cause as to why people are limited to access is because of that. And so when I have my private practice, just like you ladies, I was booked all the time. And sometimes, you know, you overextended yourself because you knew that there was a need. A language barrier was a need.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so as a result, I was just like you know, seeing more people than I can handle, just because of what you felt was moral obligation on your behalf to help your community.
Can you repeat the name of the helpline, the name of it?
It's CHAMP, CHAMP. Helpline. You Google it and it comes up, and it's funded, like I said, by the New York State Office of Mental Health and
Okay.
How can a person get help if they have no insurance?
So basically, they can apply for Medicaid, or they can go through my agency, or any of the managed care plans, and it's based on your income and your resources.
No income.
No income, so then you qualify. So you need to see me at the end of this discussion. You see one of my representatives, Mr. Hall. Where's your office? 86 Main Street. Right across from the corner.
I mean, I live in Hempstead,
So
but I
we're
have a
open at 9 o'clock. You can see Maritza, you see one of my representatives, and we'll do that to facilitate on the marketplace. Okay?
Okay, so you want to say, I have another question if you want.
I'll say
Okay. So how can someone support a friend who's struggling with mental health issues?
So I think that's a great question, and recognizing that we all have responsibilities, like you said, that community response to each other for some aspects of well-being is really important. So there's certain things that we should watch in terms of our language. And we have a way of messaging to each other, oh, it's not that bad. You'll be all right. Man up. You know, the different things that we say to just kind of make it seem like it's not okay to not be okay. And so we have to be very conscious of the language that we use. And when we want to check in with people, we have to really think about, you know, we all say, how you doing? And everybody says, fine. It's just like call and response. It happens automatically. But to really think about who you can reach out to check in with. You know when somebody is struggling. You know when some life issues are coming their way that are very problematic and they're not engaging like they used to, or they're not interacting the way they used to, or they're isolating, or whatever it might be. When you start seeing some of those behavioral changes, as well as some aspect of their moods potentially shifting, being able to check in with them. Now, we have codes that we use. We often say things like, you need to see somebody, right? You know, everybody know what that means when you say you need to see somebody? So we don't say, you know, to see a therapist, or have you thought about getting some professional help? But that's fine. We'll take the code words. You know, being able to recognize how to connect people to the somebody. So the state, you know, helpline, or even the Nassau County helpline, which, you know, we'll hear more about, the 227 Talk. Being able to make sure that you have some tools and some resources available to them to help check in with people on their well-being, and really to just be there as that support. But to be careful to not message to them that you'll get over it.
I will say this, and again, not because Legislator Bynoe is here, but the mental health first aid. I want to just throw a pitch for this a little bit more. First of all, it's an 8-hour course that we in the county offer our community. If you're interested in learning more about it, definitely connect with me, and we will bring this training opportunity to you. It is an 8-hour long training designed to help the community at large understand signs and symptoms of mental illness and substance use. And sometimes, though, what I've gathered in doing these types of trainings is how fearful people are of mental illness because they don't understand it. And I think that the more we educate our community to understand what mental illness is, the more comfortable we will be approaching our neighbor, our family member, our coworker, and simply asking them, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? Is there any way that I can connect you to somebody who can definitely help you? And I think it's important to understand that mental illness has recovery. You can rehabilitate. You can live full, normal, healthy, successful lives. And so when you identify a person who's in need, I think that it empowers you too to say, you know what, this loved one is going to get better because I'm going to intervene. I'm going to take the initial steps. The mental health first aid training allows people to have more tools in their toolbox on how to navigate that. So I implore that if you are interested and you want to bring this training to your community, connect with us. We will provide the materials, we provide the manuals, we will bring everything to you. And you can host it, you know, so if you are in your faith-based organizations or even wanting to do something here and recruit 30, 35 people to train on mental health first aid, we're making this available to you gratis.
And I know you mentioned that the county employees, you know, are going to have that training, but I think barbers.
Yes. Yes.
Hairstylists.
Yes.
You know, maybe not the nail technicians. I don't think we tell our business there as much. But most of them. Okay, we tell them. These are the things that I know. I wasn't sure, but I can put it on there. You confirmed it. You know, but people who are in those you know, service trades, if you will, that we go to, it goes down in those places, right? People share their pain. People know to check in or to, you know, kind of get a sense of how people are dealing. Those are the natural environments where a lot of community healing can occur, has occurred, and should occur. So we need to think about, you know, strategies, maybe some creative strategies to bring those people into a conversation and to see how to get that training.
At the heart of the training is teaching people how to ask questions.
Yeah.
Right. How to ask questions, how to ask somebody who looks very down whether or not they want to kill themselves, whether or not they've thought about it, and not being afraid to ask that question. You know, so it's a very interactive approach, giving people the tools, the language to be able to engage in those conversations, again, with anybody that you come across. So I tell you, if you're interested, connect with me and we will bring that to you.
I wanted to say, I took the training myself actually 6 years ago in Manhattan. And one of the things that it did for most of the people that were in the room, a lot of nonprofits send their employees there. And when the training was over, the instructor was clear to say, you are not a licensed professional. You cannot give anyone diagnosis. But what it does is it helps you to know the signs and symptoms to look for, so you can best advocate for people in your community, people in your own family, to say, I identify and realize something might be going on, so the person in your family can no longer say, I'm just tired, or whatever. You can look at it from a different eye and say, maybe something else is going on. And to follow what Lisa was saying earlier, when we say we need to see someone, it's how you say it. I think a lot of times how we communicate to each other gets the conversation going. And a lot of times when we say, oh, you should pray about it, that's what we do. It's dismissive. It's not helpful. And so as soon as people say that, they shut down. And they know, okay, this is not a safe place. I'm not going to disclose my information to you. And so they wait. And I'll just say for me, because on social media, there was a point where no one would share. Now people openly share on my page. They privately inbox me and say, the reason why I'm able to refer, because they tell me. They don't know me from Adam. Mothers from all over the country inbox me and say, I need help. So I'm always looking for and referring to people like Lisa and whoever else I know, and I beg for them, can you please take them out? You know, because they are looking for safe places. But it's the language that we use. It makes it easier for people to say, I can trust you.
There's an art to silence. There's an art to receiving from the question you are attempting to perpetuate. You know, we can perpetuate 1,000 questions, but how as a human, let alone a trained therapeutic interventioner, can we receive it? Empathy, for me, is the preeminent tool to use. As children, when your brother or sister cried, you felt like crying. Naturally, in a state of distress, anyone you love, you want to just be where they are. That's an empathic relationship. So the natural state of that beautiful music in the background. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean. But empathy. So contemplate what you feel. Contemplate how you receive someone. Whenever I start my therapeutic intervention, I always tell my clients that I'm a pipe and they are the water that will fill me. And then it'll be my job to exercise the sediment that they leave in me, maybe a little philosophical, but they're filling me with issues as if I'm a pin cushion. But they're not taking those pins back. All right? I've got to shake those pins, I got to push up those pins, I got to play my racquetball and write my poetry and dance it away. But I am asking them to allow me to listen first, to contemplate what they are giving to me, and to attempt to fortify what they know already. You see, we may contemplate the answers, but we live the answers. Autistic spectrum, special education child from the 3 times they tried to leave me back in the 5th grade to graduating with my 4 college degrees. It happens. We are mislabeled, misinformed, disengaged, stigmatized, but we can be our heroes. To fortify the hero in all of you. Don't be afraid to be your own hero. If we listen, if we love, if we learn.
Okay, so thank you. If we could just hold that question, I'm sorry. Okay. Because I have 2 more questions for the panel, and then we're going to get to you guys can share and ask. So speaking of pray on it, are mental illness concerns addressed in religious communities? And how should these concerns of mental illness be a part of social action initiatives?
I have to say, and I'm going to brag about this. I attend church in Harlem, First Corinthian Baptist Church. It starts from the head. And so I will say that he has been completely transparent with the congregation and sharing his own testimonies. Yes. And 3 years ago, started the Hope Center, which is a free counseling center for the community. So when the pastor of the church is encouraging the congregation to get the help that they need and sharing his own testimony, that changes a whole different narrative. We're no longer talking about just praying about it. We're talking about praying about it, but action. And what does action mean? Getting help that you need. And so that is so important that more churches get on board with that. You know, it's very important.
And I'll follow that because after Hurricane Sandy, there was an initiative that was sponsored by the All Healers Mental Health Alliance. That's a group that came into existence after Hurricane Katrina, where they were looking at convening different Black organizations, so the Black social workers, Black psychologists, Black psychiatrists, coming together to look very specifically at the needs of communities of color, specifically Black communities after natural disasters. So after Hurricane Sandy, we convened at a church in Brooklyn, and we tried to figure out what the needs were and how to organize ourselves to go into communities, and at that point it was the city, so it was Canarsie, Brooklyn, Coney Island, and Far Rockaway. And so our Association of Social Workers, the New York City chapter and the Nassau Suffolk chapter combined, and we did an initiative in Far Rockaway. But what made it so important is the ministers and the faith leaders were endorsing us going into the churches and doing a lot of the work. So it kind of is following up your point about when the head or the pastor or the ministerial team supports the work of saying the word trauma, addressing, you know, the issues of mental illness as well as promoting mental health, it makes a tremendous difference. So the pastor that we worked with welcomed us into his church, told the congregation, kind of gave it the green light, you know, that it's okay to talk about these things. These resource people are here for you to engage around your needs. So I think it does make a difference, and I can say that I've seen some shifting. We're not there yet, but some shifting where we're having those conversations in houses of worship, and we're moving the dial a little bit to really embrace the idea of professional helping outside of pastoral counseling.
I think that
Pastors are coming to therapy too, okay? So, you know,
I think because the black church, I mean, the church
they
is
are.
I think because the church is so big in the black community, I think it's imperative that we start talking about mental health in the church. I go to a spiritual center, Celebration Spiritual Center in Brooklyn, and they always have somebody coming in to do mental health first aid. We celebrate mental health awareness and all that kind of stuff. But being that it's such a big thing in the black community, I think that's important.
As long as it acts as a conduit to truly train professional health, it is a magnificent complement to the healing process of belief. You know, belief is healing. The body has a way, a very pragmatic, cellular-based way, if motivated, to heal itself. Has anyone in here ever had alopecia nervosa? Okay. What happens when your body goes back to a point of homeostasis? The hair does what? You're not bald, it grows back. At the state of alopecia, you think you're losing your hair. You think your grandfather done caught up with you. And then all of a sudden, and grandpa may have a like overnight, comes back. Your body wants to be in a state of homeostasis. And if we promote that through the balance of faith and the balance of trained individuals, like sending us to doctors that can work, and back to then the spirit being healed through the community, then we are in a state of balance.
People understand that the mind and the body is connected. So it's like psychosomatic stuff. So people don't realize, they go to the doctor, but they don't realize that a lot of stuff starts here. Most stuff starts in the mind.
There's no big ulcer monster jumping in your stomach.
Right, exactly. So that's very important for us to be mindful of our own mental health. That should really come. That should be first.
Yes, amen.
Okay, so I have one more definition and then one last question for the panel. Trauma results from an event, series of events, or a set of circumstances that is experienced by an individual, a group, such as a family, or an entire community, as physically or emotionally harmful or threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects on the functioning and physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. It's trauma, it's a lot. So the last question for the panel is, what steps can we take as a community to decrease, prevent, and or begin to heal from trauma?
Recognize that there's an issue. I think a lot, especially in our community, I don't think that we recognize that there's an issue, that we've been affected by trauma, and how it carries over into generations, and how it's actually carried over in the DNA.
Yes, transgenerational.
Yes, so I
epidemiology.
think once we start to realize, then we can, once we're able to accept that we'll be able to start to heal. And keep having these conversations, like to say it's okay to seek help.
Trauma is an epidemic in our communities, and Chicago, and the gun violence in Chicago.
It's constant, because we have, even with the discrimination and racism, there's always some microaggressions that, some of us may not even realize that's happening. So it's constantly happening, and then if we look at our communities, we'll see the effects of it every single day.
If we look at trauma for the truth that it is, we've been traumatized since we were pulled here to these shores.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as we speak of it from an epidemiology standpoint, they are studying it psychologically, leapfrogging at 50 years a time, and then being present, the issues of your great-grandfather, present today, acting in the same way as your grandmother.
Yes.
Now, if there was greatness there, possibly you have their style.
Yes.
You're wearing their pearls and those earrings are shining. But what if they had dysfunction that was so permanent in them that it leapfrogged into your DNA? So what happens if we look at it from an epidemic standpoint? If we saw that as a global humanistic epidemic standpoint here in America, we would attack it like we're doing with, the mumps that just came out. When things just pop up, we attack it and try and stop it. But nobody is stopping it in African American and Latino communities. We are the stopgap. We are the addressers. And we do not need to be, we all need to be. And you see, Caucasian individuals go to black doctors, Haitian doctors, Hispanic doctors. They do not deny someone for the color of their skin. We never have.
Right.
That's where the chains came from. We are in acceptance that we will accept the humanity of our brothers and sisters if you allow us to attack it for the issue that it is, not the color that it is. So if we want to stop trauma, we have to address it like the epidemic that it is.
Take more responsibility for ourselves and our community.
I think that for us, we need to go back to being a village mindset. That, I was thinking of something the other day in terms of the church. Now, I grew up in Rockville Center, Shallow Baptist Church. And I remember, as long as I can remember, that we used to have a section in the program listing of the sick and shut in, right? So you knew from the community who we need to pray for. We don't have that mindset anymore. Everybody is minding their own business. No one thinks and checks in on the next person saying, Sister so-and-so usually sits on the 4th row on the corner. We haven't seen her in a while. Is she in the hospital? What's going on? Why is she not in church? Why don't we see her doing her day-to-day traveling? We don't do that because we're so busy on social media or minding our own business that we are not accountable for one another. So the village mindset is something that the black community needs to get behind again. Even when I think about, I'm just speaking for my community where I grew up. If someone passed away and they knew the family's financial situation, there was always someone would go door to door collecting money to contribute towards the family's needs for the funeral. We had our own back. We don't do that anymore.
But the Chinese do. And our Jewish families do. We may believe we live in the age of information, family, because we see information, because we carry information. But have any of you contemplated that we live in the age of isolation? That loneliness and the insensitivity to your common man, to your common person, common woman, that it is pervasive right now? So the question that I'd like to leave you with is, which age do you want to live in? The age of information, the age of isolation, or the age of acceptance of one another?
In working with people with severe mental illnesses, my experience has been is that the illness is there, but it's the trauma that surrounds them that exacerbates it so much. And so, I think trauma is, again, as we've talked about, is an epidemic, and how do we? One of the things I will say is that in conversations that I'm having with other therapists, there's a movement happening about therapy as a form of reparations. And that's something that I think I'm particularly very interested in, and I know a lot of my colleagues are. And so this work of therapy, which we talk about community-based mental health, which is something that was proposed years ago, we need more of this, which is that it needs to be smaller, village-like, and just to paraphrase what you're already saying, that shared responsibility, I think needs to be more. But it's so much of it is the trauma. Is so much of my experience has been it's the trauma that holds so much more of the power than the illness itself or the depression itself or the symptoms itself. It's the larger historical, generational thing.
And just being able to bear witness to, what trauma is important. When we in certain communities have to go by that yellow police tape because it's going down on that block, and being constantly exposed to that, that's a traumatic experience that you're having. When you are seeing, kids in school and they're constantly being, brought in for concerns about abuse and neglect, those kinds of things that are realities for us. We have to recognize certain realities. We have to manage certain realities and all the emotions and all the stuff that comes up from the realities that we have to deal with. So it is important to just speak to what some of those issues are, bear witness to the fact that trauma does occur. It's not just for veterans. right? Or returning home from, deployments and things like that. But there are some common day experiences that many of us have that have traumatic content.
If trauma was a bloody hole in someone's chest, we'd all jump on it to save that life. We wouldn't say, well, we're saving a black life or a white life. We'd all try to stop that trauma.
Thank you. So someone told me we were pressed for time.
I remember probably like 6 years ago, I was going through a lot of emotional battles, as well as physical challenges. And I just got to a point where I was in and out of hospitals. None of the things I was going through was hereditary, physically. Doctors trying to figure out what's wrong. So I just got to a point where emotionally it was so frustrating that when I was going to work, I was working at an after-school program. And a parent came in one day, and I was like, I'm just going to be honest if somebody asked me, how are you? Parent came in, oh, how are you, Luke? I said, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not doing too good. And he just stopped in his tracks and he was just like, oh, I hope you feel better, and kept walking. And so it's become this like automatic response when you ask somebody, how are you? So now I get to the point, if I ask how are you, I go, how are you? The person says, I'm fine normally. You sure? They probably go, yeah, I'm good. You sure? I'm good. Then I let it go. So this piece is called I'm Fine, ? I hope you take these gems. When I say, can I give y'all some soul food? Y'all just say, go ahead, King. Can I give y'all some soul food? Go ahead, King. Can I give y'all some soul food? Go ahead, King. Now with me. I wonder if the question, how are you, was really genuine, if that would lower the number of suicide rates. Because I'm fine. It's this automatic neurological response to how are you, even when we're not okay. Even when we just cried, tears rolling down our face. Pastor preaching a powerful word, we still feel far from grace. I'm fine. Translation for, I'm broken. Help me. I can't do this on my own. It's sad to say everything you do is scripted. You act like you got it all together. And this entire world is your stage. Until you realize there's healing in your brokenness, strength in your transparency. Not 1 out of 7 billion is faces some type of struggle, which means it's okay not to be okay. It's just not okay to stay in that place. That's the reality you have to face. Take your mask off. You're not fine. I'm not fine either. But we in this together. Trust me, I know what it means when people repeatedly tell you wait on God and it feels like He's taking forever. I do my best to keep my mind pure. They're like, Luke, how do you storm your weather? I'll be honest, I found peace in temporary pleasures. Like, when did women become my Achilles heel? And how did porn become my escape? And how far did I run from my calling before I realized the only reason I'm alive is because my mother prayed. She always said, baby, you only got time for God and nobody else. The only way God can fully use you is if you lose yourself. But I'm like, Ma, if He wants to use me, why would He bruise my health? Doctors couldn't find my diagnosis. Countless times I've been admitted. So many times my family's new normal became hospital visits. Physical ailments so intense they evolved into suicidal ways. I should have been calculating what type of house I'm gonna buy. At 22 years old, what type of car I'm gonna drive. A young man's logic shouldn't be what's the quickest option to leave Earth while feeling the least pain. Disgusted at myself. Envisioning my own mother looking down at my grave, and when they ask, how did he die? She responds, broken voice, teary eyes. Same son she taught Psalm 118, verse 17, took his own life away. Where would I spend my eternity? That's a real question. Ask yourself. If your days were numbered, where would you spend your eternity? Forgive me, I'm mind-blown into generation. We always got eyes to screen. Eye-to-eye contact has become a lost form of communication. And sidebar, beautiful queens, I got a couple rules if we dating. We go to dinner, leave your phone in the car. No scrolling while you're with me. I want intimacy. I'll shower you with attention. Just give me reciprocation. Don't make me feel like I'm being alienated. Forget who am I kidding? I'm just vetting. Just a young king who want actions to match intentions. I'm sitting here super tired of all these gimmicks. Just want somebody who wants my love without double tapping for artificial attention. So I say it again, here we are at the end. I wonder if the question, how are you, was really genuine, if that would lower the number of suicide rates. Because I'm fine. It's this automatic neurological response to how are you even when we're not okay. My sanity is worth way more than my pride. Next time somebody asks you, how are you? Make sure you're I'm fine. really means you're fine.
How can it be that you love the most unlovable part of me? How could you see your life was the only gift I'll ever need to be free? It's amazing with you, I win even if I lose. Everything's working for my good for always. He saved the day, he will come through. He won't doubt that's not what superheroes do. No great